What's good, everybody? It's Big Game James, man. I'm back in the building, and guess what? I got a special guest today. We got a show called Mr. Pessimistic versus Mr. Optimistic because this is what it really is, for real, for real. But let's before we jump into all that good stuff, let me bring my guy in, Mr. Dan Rogers, formerly of Blogging the Boys. I'm sad that that's gone. I mean, a lot of great things. I know you're more sad than I am, well, at least with all the great people you've met. But tell us a little bit about yourself for everybody who doesn't know about you, Dan, and talk about Blogging the Boys and give a little background about you before we jump in there. And talk about your positivity on Twitter so they know.
Well, first off, I'm still with Blogging the Boys.
Oh,
So
okay. My bad. I didn't know. Let me know.
all right. But no, I understand the confusion because I'm just no longer right now. The Star Seminar, the podcast
Okay.
that we did on Fridays, is currently on hiatus
Hmm.
because SB Nation did away with the podcast. But so
Right.
that's not happening right now. But
Hmm.
yeah, I'm still writing with Blogging the Boys. I've been doing that since 2015.
Hmm.
Um, so yeah, I mean, Cowboys is my passion. I have a regular 9 to 5, but I certainly enjoy living and breathing everything Cowboys. It's just who I am now, and so I definitely, I enjoy this. And I know that you you label this Mr. Optimism versus Mr. Pessimism, but I want to say this too because I want to be fair. I am Mr. Optimism during this time of the year.
Hmm.
It's just because this is where Cowboy fans mostly are at their darkest moments
Right.
is during this time. So I come
Hmm.
across that way during this time of year. But I don't know. I people they call me the haters, when we start talking, when the criticism comes in. So I don't
Hmm.
really call myself like just a overly optimistic fan. I try, like we all do, we try to keep it real and be
Hmm.
as honest as we can, and I certainly try to do that myself. But I definitely, my perspective on this time of year is way more favorable than the average Cowboys fan, for sure.
Well, that's definitely good because, like I said, we want to keep it real because I think that's what I kind of live by as far as how I feel about the Cowboys. They used to. I mean, I've been in it over 40 years as a fan, but I am not gonna lie, I became a lot more pessimistic these last probably Jason Garrett definitely, and then just how things have been going, how things run, just got me more pessimistic about things. But we're gonna just talk about some things, Cowboy things in general, and just kind of do some back and forth because I'm not really able to do a one-on-one with you, so I'm able to be able to pick your brain as I want to be able to pick it and be able to get your thoughts on a different level than just talking through Twitter, and that's why I'm excited about this show today.
Yeah, for sure.
So so let's start with the draft, man. It just ended. A lot of there's been varying marks, but I think it's been in around the same range, B or C range. I think that's where the the majority of people are saying high C plus B range, are saying that for the draft. Obviously, we saw the trade back, and then the Cowboys got Tyler Guyton. They picked up Marshawn Nealon. In the second, they made the scoop, which a lot of people love, the Cooper Beebe pick, and then they filled it out with Maris. What's Maris' last name? Is it Maris?
Yeah, Lee Fuo. Lee. I
That's what
mean,
I thought. Lipo.
I had it. I was pronouncing it really well just a little bit ago. Now you put me on the spot, and I've suddenly forgotten how to. Let me look through my notes and see if it helps me. I can spell it, but let me see.
Yeah, yeah, it's tough. Well, why are you trying to figure it out? Fifth round, they got Kayleen Carson. All right, the cornerback. Right, a lot of people saying that was my frustrating pick. Ryan Flournoy, Flournoy.
Oh yeah, good luck with that one, Big Game, because I don't even know how to pronounce. Yeah.
And we got him in the six. Well, Dallas got him in the six. And then a lot of people been clamoring over the just not the Justin Rogers pick, but the Nathan Thomas pick from Louisiana,
Hmm.
offensive lineman. And then they finish it out in typical Cowboys fashion, getting a defensive tackle in the seventh round of Justin Rogers.
Hmm.
So kind of just go with me through your thoughts of Let's talk about the first four picks because I think those are the important picks.
Yes.
Um, Go through me with those picks and kind of what's your thoughts about them.
Yeah. So first off, I have to say that I'm not a big believer in the whole draft grade thing because I mean, obviously it's too early to
Right.
have an opinion. I've actually been burned because I haven't been too thrilled about the Cowboys' recent drafts.
Mm-hmm.
With like Tyler Smith and players like that. But as I quickly learned that we have to let these things play out, and they know more about it than I do. So I don't I don't really have any grades, but I did want to talk more about the process, and this is what I
Mm-hmm.
will evaluate them on and judge them on. And I think you start off with talking about the trade, and so as we're watching the draft, we're getting really excited because I don't know about you, but there are some players that were seeming to slide, and I think that the Washington tackle was kind of the first one. I think Pittsburgh picked him up.
Mm-hmm.
Troy Fontanu, I think
Mm-hmm.
if he's there at 24, I think the Cowboys make that pick, and then
Mm-hmm.
that's their first round pick. So he wasn't, and then you get in a situation where they have a few guys that are all grouped together, and this is what I really thought that was clever of that. It's very hard to find trade partners, and if to trade back, and if you do, typically you're probably not going to get the full value, but that's not what happened here. The Cowboys got a great deal. They really got lucky. They got lucky that the Alabama corner fell,
Mm-hmm.
and that was perfect because Detroit wanted him. So the Detroit was willing to overpay for that, so they can get the player at that spot in the draft. So Cowboys were fortunate there to turn that 24 into 29 and then 73. So great value there, regardless of what even happens after that. I have to at least applaud them for the move. I thought it was a great choice to do that. The player I wanted, I was a Graham Barton fan. The Duke interior lineman, he was my
Mm-hmm.
favorite. I was hoping he would make it. He didn't. Tyler Guyton, I mean, he wasn't on the top of my list. Don't have strong opinions really about him one way or another. I mean, the athleticism's there. He's certainly one of those high upside players. And the Cowboys, they seem to have a good sense about finding those guys. So I'm not gonna have any judgment for it. They got their tackle. It's a premium position. I applaud them for that. So first round, I have to say a thumbs up for that pick. Moving on, I wasn't expecting them to go edge, to be quite honest,
Mm-hmm.
and
Mm-hmm.
I know having the extra pick kind of given made it kind of opened up some flexibility. It's like we don't have to just start going this way and that way because now you have this extra draft capital, and so Nealon surprised me, but he's a very athletic player in another premium position. So I think the Cowboys made a good choice there. I know that he was graded like 24 spots higher on the Brugler board. So I mean that's just fantastic value in that regard. So can't complain about that. And then I think the pick that most people really love is the Cooper Beebe pick, and because I know there was talks about when we were debating at 24, like should we go center? There's some couple centers that we like. Should we go tackle? How should we go about it? People were saying, well, if we knew we could get Cooper Beebe in the second round, then we'd definitely go tackle. And it turns out we could get him in. We got Beebe. We got him early third because of the bonus pick. So I think when you look at that, the Cowboys addressed two of their biggest departures with Tyron and Biotish leaving in free agency. These guys are going to be their starters. And I mean, I don't know what kind of immediate impact they'll make, but you have to be happy with the Cowboys. Suddenly, they have a very young offensive line. So I'm excited about that. They address the trenches. They already have playmakers on the offensive side of the ball. Just give these guys some protection. And I really like what they can do. So I have to say I'm very pleased with that. And finishing it off with fourth. First off, I didn't know anything about Maris, the Notre Dame linebacker. So the first time
Mm-hmm.
I watched him is when they drafted him, and I started watching clips and stuff. Loved what I saw. I thought this guy, he really reminds me of like an oversized Talanoa Hufanga, the all-pro safety for the 49ers, who's actually a local kid here up in Oregon where I live. I know his family and stuff, but I'm a big fan of Hufanga. But he just, I mean, of course, the hair, helps a little bit, but the way the guy plays too, and he's just like a missile to the ball. So I'm really excited about that pick. But I know that a lot of fans, and myself including, and I was tweeting this as it was going on, we were really hoping to come away with a running back at that spot, and the Cowboys didn't go that direction. That's a little bit of the head scratcher part, I would say, from this. But overall, I have to applaud them for trusting their board and not reaching for reaching in their regard, because he wasn't rated as high for a linebacker, for a running back, and instead just taking good football players, because this is what they do. They pick good football players, and they're pretty good at it. We have to give them credit. I mean, we all have our own opinions about just how good they are at drafting, but I think Will McClay and his scouting department do a fantastic job. I think they're one of the better teams in the league in doing this. So very pleased that they did that. And if it means that they come away without a running back, then that's the trade-off. You can't have everything line up perfectly for them, and it didn't. But overall, I'm very pleased with the first 2 days of drafting.
Yeah, I'm gonna say that the first part of the draft, and I said that I gave it a B. I know we don't. I know talk about grades. I'm just talking about the players. We don't know eventually what's going to happen with them. We don't know what they're going to do because they haven't even put the pads on. But if you're just looking at the potential of each of the players, I would just go a B as far as the potential of the players. Now, I'm going to agree with you with the Tyler Guyton, because I liked him prior. I saw the 6'8", 322, long arms, play tight end, athlete, green at the position, but you could see has all elite traits. So if you get a really good coach with him, and he plays to what his traits look like, you got a dog right there, right? You have a bookend, and you're satisfied because it has everything that you want as far as athletic ability. So, but I'm going to say, I said that he's at least a year away because he played right tackle. He didn't play left tackle. He played right tackle. And you going to the left side, yes, you might have the willingness to do it, and I'm all for that, okay? But you're going from the right to the left in the NFL, right? And you're going to get the business. Let's just keep it real. You're going to get the business. That's going to happen to you. So I feel like he's a year away from really showing what he's going to be. And I feel like it's going to be a little bit of a struggle. I love the potential, but I think it's going to be a struggle. And he's a rookie. You're putting a lot on that. And then when you go on the second round, this is where I feel like I understand why they got the edge, because I had an interview with Mike Fisher, Dan, and he was telling me and the audience basically looked at them contracts, and D-Law is one of them contracts where this is the end of the road and they're looking to replace. So you get in that second round. This is the guy that I think this is the backup year, but the next year is where you're going to be the guy. Okay. But you're going to be in that rotation. Love the potential, because I love how he can put his hand in the dirt, Dan, and I love how he can stand, because he can really attack that line of scrimmage standing in multiple spots. And he can play the run well, plays violent, plays very aggressive, and he has the athletic ability to match. A lot of guys who have that high motor don't really have the athletic skills. That's why they have the high motor. His athletic skills go with the high motor, and that's what excites you. Now, Dan, this is where I feel like you could have got the running back, because we saw Trey Benson go in that third round to the Arizona Cardinals. Trey Benson's a guy that you could have scooped right there. And this is what I said, that I know you could have missed your defensive end, but maybe you could have got one a little bit later. And Vejoko is on the team. You're still trying to look for Sam Williams in year 3 to step up, right? So you had it around. You probably could maybe pluck somebody undrafted. You're good with ends right there. You could have got a Trey Benson right there. And then I brought up a Jalen Ford from Texas, who got taken one place right after the linebacker from us. The cornerback for the Cowboys. Jalen Ford went right after that. So you could have got the linebacker still, because you probably wouldn't have had Maris, because he probably would have went within those 2 rounds. But you could have got your top end running back. And this is where I get frustrated, Dan, is because you could have got your Trey Benson. You still could have got your linebacker. You still could have got your Cooper Beebe, right? And then you brought the Ezekiel Elliott. But my thing is, Dan, is that when the Ezekiel Elliott talk came up, I feel like they settled. Oh, we got Dowdle. We got Ezekiel Elliott coming in the building. We just picked up Royce Freeman. You have Deuce Vaughn, who you didn't see last year. We're good. And I feel like that's why they didn't touch it. And I feel like that's where they missed because, yes, Ezekiel Elliott is a good complementary back, right? He's a complementary back. But Dowdle has injury history. And that's why I feel like Ezekiel Elliott might end up being the starter again. And that's where it's going to lack on the offense. And I feel like that's why they attack the offensive line to protect those guys because you don't have explosiveness in that group.
Yeah, honestly, I agree with everything you said. Well, just quickly touch on a couple things with Guyton.
Mm-hmm.
I had the same apprehensions you did about that, and I think I even tweeted. Well, I did tweet. Terrence Steele will be our new left tackle next year because that's how much confidence I had in the rookie. But I will say
Mm-hmm.
this though: what I didn't realize, and I learned later, is that well, I did know that he played with a team with a left-handed quarterback, so they were putting him in the best spot to protect his blind side. But he said in the press conference that he's more comfortable at left tackle. So, this is something that he's done before, and
Mm-hmm.
it may not be as much of a transition as I'm thinking it is. So I don't like I say, because of how well things went with Tyler Smith, and I'm certainly not expecting everything to be like that, but it may not be as bad as I'm worried about. Because I'll tell you, James, I was freaking out when
Mm-hmm.
Tyler Smith when Tyron got hurt, and then Tyler's going to come in and protect Dak's
Right.
blind side. I was
Yep.
so worried that year, and they weren't
I
even
was
bringing in.
too.
They didn't even bring Jason Peters in until like they lollygagged on that one too. So it's like the whole time we're like, what are they going to do? So anyway, I'm trying not to worry as much about that because maybe it won't be so bad. And remember, we do have, not that we want to move this guy, but we do have a Tyler Smith break glass if necessary,
Right.
swing him out, and we already know what he can do. So that's there just in case. So not concerned about that. But I wanted to mention too about Nealon. I think you made a great point too. Addressing this when they did when you have a year left to learn from DeMarcus Lawrence, I think that's going to be so valuable. I'm glad they did that now versus like waiting till he leaves and then you don't have that year of mentorship. So I have to applaud them for that. But the running back thing, honestly, I don't got any optimism for you here because I totally agree with you. I don't know what the Cowboys were really planning on doing. Maybe it was going to be Zeke all along, but then you hear Jerry in the press conference. I swear there was it was like day 2 or no, it was day 1 press conference, and he was talking up Jonathan Brooks as if they'd already
Right.
drafted him. Like
Right.
sometimes Jerry, he's a little bit off his rocker and doesn't know what's going on. But so I feel like they were in play for running it. They were going after it. It's just that they weren't going to compromise their board and take one if they had better players available. And that's just the case. What happened? I love Trey Benson. He's my RB1 to be honest. I would love to
Mm-hmm.
have him, but if I have players that are ranked ahead of him, and you took, especially if they're at an edge position versus a running back position, I'm going to go with how the Cowboys win. So have no problems with that. But I am curious to see because I don't have anything against Zeke. I like Zeke, but I'd hope this isn't one of those subtraction by addition sort of things. You've heard of
Mm-hmm.
the other thing, but like I don't
Mm-hmm.
want them to get in there and then like say, okay, we're done. We don't need to address this anymore. And this is our running back group. I really hope that they're not done. Maybe that there's as the other teams start to get their groups in, and now other teams have drafted running backs, so the running back rooms are a little crowded. Maybe there's an opportunity to get some depth here. A guy over here that's not going to be getting the playing time that he would now with a crowded running back room. So I'm hoping that there's still a running back in play for the Cowboys. They have a lot of draft capital day 3 next year because the comp picks, so they can spend some. And even if it's a 1-year rental, you do a 5th round, 6th round pick for somebody who can come in right now and take over the majority of the work. I would be for that. I hope the Cowboys have a plan. I do not feel comfortable, like you said, Dowdle, very extensive injury history. Zeke's lost some juice. We love him. He's lost some juice. He can't hit those deep. I mean, I don't know what they really have, and I don't think they have to be great at running back, but they
Mm-hmm.
do need to be good because if you don't have people that can create something for themselves and do a little something, then you're really taking away what your offense can do. So I hope it's not over, but I definitely share your pessimism at the running back position.
Yeah, and I think the biggest thing as well, Dan, is because Zeke is there and Jerry loves Zeke or whatever, I feel like the need is going to want to play him.
Hmm.
And
Don't say
I
that.
just feel
Don't say that, James.
I'm just saying, I just feel like that's why it was the progress stopper. I was not hating on Zeke, but the progress stopper when we're hearing about him in the building. Well, now we ain't worried about the running back position just like that because we're good. Let's just build up this offensive line and we'll be okay. So, like you said, I hope they keep on searching and don't settle on this because that's a recipe for not good. It's going to put more pressure on Dak Prescott and this offense, and I feel like that's when those bad things happen. So let's move away. I know we had the other picks, but I do want to talk about that fifth round pick because this is where
You
I
don't
talked
like him?
about the no. I Here's the thing. I like Carson, but at the fifth round pick, you still didn't address the defensive tackle. You lost
Hmm.
Jonathan Hankins. You talk about you want to stop the run, but you have three defensive tackles. Carl Long, who Mozzie, it's still year two. These guys you lost Bohanna last year, where I think you should not have cut him because year three he was actually showing something in preseason, and that was other able young body that's in a rotation. If you're trying to stop the run to protect your linebackers, you have three defensive tackles on the roster. Yes, we know about the June 1 cuts. People getting cut, yes, but we don't know. That's still a gamble. My thing is, you went after that cornerback in that fifth round. There was a couple guys that were drafted in the sixth round right after that, Dan, that I feel like could have helped your defensive tackle room because there's nothing wrong. You have a cornerback, but if you can't stop the front, your cornerbacks don't matter. If you can't stop that front, they're going to get abused all day. There was two, no, there was actually three guys that I was looking at, and I want to mention them to you that had me kind of a little frustrated. Mekhi Wingo from LSU, he went to the Lions, and then you had two back-to-back guys, and Christian Boyd, who I definitely feel like could have helped the Cowboys. He's a full 6'4", 325 pounds. I like his abilities, a stopper, and that's somebody you could have really plugged in. And then Jaden Crumedy from Mississippi State was another defensive tackle that went. There was the defensive tackles that you could have addressed and still probably could have got a cornerback later. But for you to get that defensive tackle in the seventh round, I feel like he's probably not going to make the team. If he does, that's a guy that's not going to be doing anything in that middle. And that middle is still not addressed. And so right now, I feel like that's a weakness still with the team. It's heavily on the offensive side in the trenches, but it's real light on that defensive side in the trenches. And that's a concern for me.
Yeah, and it's a valid one too. And honestly, I think if you really stop and look at this team, that's the biggest concern. I really think that they've done a lot of other things to feel really good about the rest of the roster and defensively too. If you start going through it, there's not a lot of holes. I mean, that they do have. I think they have a good secondary, good players in the secondary. They got two All Pros on the edge. I really like Osa. I think he's a good player. But you're right. As far as nose, what do they got? I mean, we're hoping year two Mozzie is something. We don't know. Carl Davis, I don't even know much about him and what kind of player that he's going to be. So I would have really, I thought for sure, and I thought it was as good as gold that they would have brought back Jonathan Hankins. And I'm surprised
Yes.
that they didn't do that. But I totally agree. There's I don't know what their plan is there, but I think that Mike Zimmer has some sort of plan. I don't think he's going to just let this team get eaten up through the middle. And to sit
Mm-hmm.
there and have all these good players. I know that they've added, the linebacker group is a little bit better now, but I don't think that they're just going to roll with what they have, and that I think they have a plan. I'm not sure what it is. They might be, like I said, I mentioned about the making trades for a running back.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
It's that there's possible that you start to look towards when we get the roster cuts. There's somebody that they can get. Maybe it's just a 1 year deal left on but they can bring in, and he could be like a good depth piece at the nose. So I don't know, but I agree. That's one position that I don't know anything about Justin Rogers, but anybody sixth, seventh round, you're really just throwing darts, and I'm
Yeah.
not expecting. I mean, unless they got lucky with John Ridgeway, I thought, but then they didn't even have room for him because they had so much depth. Like you mentioned, Bahana, and I think they even had Tristan Hill back then. So they had like an influx of big defensive tackles back then to where they couldn't even keep Ridgeway. But that's not the case now, and they're going to need to figure that out. Not sure how it's going to play out and what their plan is, but I agree, and I think it's honestly, I think it's the biggest issue on the roster for the Cowboys right now.
Yeah, and I don't care what they say. They should already try to figure out a way to keep Ridgeway because he's gotten even bigger and stronger over there at Washington. And I
Yeah,
just frustration on my heart when every time I hear about him over there, it just makes me mad because he definitely would have been a great addition to the Cowboys. I know for a fact he would have. He would have
get
played.
rid of Nation Wright for. I mean, come on
Man,
already.
I feel you, Nation. I'm right. It's like you keep. I totally understand it, but maybe that's why they got the Carson kid to do that. But once again, I always feel like you start with the inside out because you did it with the offensive line. You got to continue to do it with the defense because this is what I agree with you on. I love Osa, but Osa gets tired in that middle plane, that three tech, when them offensive line are wearing on him and he's getting double teamed, and you don't have anybody step up and help him. You only play so many steps, and that rotation gets thinner and thinner. And I don't care. We got to talk about injuries. Injuries are part of the game. That happens every single year. So we can always talk about players starting in depth, but there's always one or two injuries that you're like compromises the roster. So you have to keep that in the back of the mind that injuries part playing a part of this. So depth is always key for any NFL team, and you have to continue to do that. And that's where it's lacking in a few spots, and a few spots that I feel like are critical for the success of the Cowboys. Now, I'm not going to keep you on here too much longer, but I always want to. We want to talk about this quarterback situation, and I want to talk about Dak Prescott in this. In your opinion, what you feel. First of all, do you think Dak Prescott, in your opinion, is going to be the quarterback of the future with the Cowboys? And in your opinion, we can't predict the future. What anything can happen, but do you think he can bring a championship here with Dallas?
First question, 100%. I don't think there's any chance that the Cowboys let Dak Prescott get away. I know there's a lot of commotion and with everything with the contract talk. I don't believe for a minute that the Cowboys, the front office, is considering, you know, could we go a different direction? Not at all. So to me, I feel like this is just posturing. Uh, I think they're going to get something done before, and it may come down to like a week before the regular season begins. I do not think at all he enters the new season without a new deal. The Cowboys know what that means. They're going to have to compete with several other teams in the open market next year if they let him hit free agency. I don't think they want to do that. So I think they get it done. Honestly, I don't think people are in the organization are really worried. I don't think that the Joneses are worried. I don't think that Dak's worried about it. I think it's going to happen. Not even worried about that. And to answer the second part of the question, do I think Dak can lead us to a Super Bowl? I do. I mean, Dak Prescott's a good quarterback. Now, people are been critical of him because he hasn't played his best in the postseason at times, and I think that's fair. But if you look at his complete body of work, you have to acknowledge that he's a good quarterback. I mean, he is
Mm-hmm.
top seven quarterback. I don't know where you want to put him. He's not going to go out of my top seven. That's how I feel about Dak Prescott, and he's played well enough throughout his career to easily lead this team. He needs other things around him to work too. I mean, it takes a team that plays well for you to have success in the postseason. And I think the Cowboys are a good team. And I have a different opinion about other people when it comes to roster building. I praise the front office. I think they're
Mm-hmm.
really good. They're really good at roster building. I don't think roster building is the issue when it comes to the Cowboys. I honestly think that if you look at the last few years, we go into it. This team has a chance, and even in the Garrett eras too, this team has a chance. They're a good enough team to win, but they don't play well enough in the postseason. Now we can start to pick our own people that we don't. We want to blame Dak. You want to blame Garrett or McCarthy or Kellen Moore or Mike or Dan Quinn. I mean, they just don't perform. They haven't. Does that mean that they're not capable of it? I don't believe that at all. I think if they keep getting chances, the Cowboys will get over the hump. I feel like it's a matter of time. I honestly thought that it would have happened already, like most Cowboy fans do. I'm not worried about it. I'm not going to turn around and let's blow this thing up and let's just, completely. We need to start a different approach. Maybe we need to spend more in free agency and do all this other stuff. Maybe we need a new quarterback or let's get rid of coaches. No, Cowboys are a good team. They have a good approach, and I think we need to keep the band together the best we can and put pieces around it, and I think they're going to be fine. But regardless, doesn't matter. Even if with all this doom and gloom, they go into and they go 12-5 again. And look, hey, we're back. They still have to play well in the postseason. That has to happen. It doesn't matter. And as fans will say, everything before that doesn't matter. They have to play well when it matters. That's what this team hasn't done. I don't think that it's because they have a lack of talent. And honestly, I don't even think it's a lack of coaching. I mean, I'm McCarthy. I've warmed up to him. I think Dan Quinn was a good coach. I also liked Kellen Moore. People don't like him, but I think that they're good in a lot of places to me. So I'm not really worried about that. They have a team that can win. They have a quarterback that can win. The Cowboys are fine. And I just think that as much as it sucks to get bounced again, especially in the manner of which it happened last year, this still is a really good football team. And James, and you know this too. I mean, they're going to give us a competitive roster. We're going to be excited about this team again. We're going to be talking to, September, October. We're going to be excited about what this team can do. Now, will it happen? I don't know. It's hard to win. There's other teams that come out there and they're fighting too. So it's, there's nothing is guaranteed in this league, and they're just going to have to be. It's going to have to be their time, and they're going to have to play well when it matters. And that's really what it all comes down to.
Now, this is where we will totally disagree on this one. This is my pessimistic side 100 million% now. And I listened to everything you said, and I love how you broke everything down. Now I want to give you my breakdown on my side. And I'm not saying everything Mike Fisher says is right, but we had a real talk, and he said a lot of things that I had already been thinking in my heart. Now I'm the total opposite of how you feel the Joneses feel about Dak. I don't feel like they feel about him that way, especially Steven. And this is why. Because I feel like, and I get it, money, I understand it. I understand the salary cap, how you have to move it, work it, and everything. But when Dak was up for that contract, other people got money ahead of him. When Dak was up for his contract, I remember that back and forth. And I remember Stevens particularly coming on air saying, Dak has to understand this, Dak understand that. It was also almost like he was chastising Dak he's got to let it open up for everybody else. Now, you put him on a franchise tag. Only Kirk Cousins was on a franchise tag. If that's your guy, you get deals done. I feel like you got that deal after he broke his leg. He gets the deal. You talk about the cap, but then you spent 30-something million for 1 year on a guy who was injured. You know what I'm saying? That was just bad business, in my opinion. And now we come over to this time. I don't care what anybody tells me. You went and spent that 4th-round pick on Trey Lance. You didn't just get him, in my opinion, just to look at him and say, hi, Trey Lance. No, you wanted to see something with him. Not going to tell me that you got a guy that the San Francisco 49ers picked in the top 5. It didn't work there, that Jerry Jones doesn't look at him and say, it didn't work over there, but it could work over here. And you're young, you're 6'4", you had traits over there that a lot of people saw. And I don't feel like we want to bring this elite player, elite athlete that possibly could be something over here, just sit back here and be a backup. Now, I listen to Dak, and I listened to him when he was talking with the Cowboys in that last interview with Troy Aikman when he went to the Cancer Foundation. I listened to him. This is what I heard, and this is what he said out of his mouth. Dak's pacing back and forth. Okay, yeah, well, we'll see. We'll we want to make sure everything's right. We'll see at the end of the season. He said this out of his mouth. We'll see at the end of the season what happens. Okay, that doesn't. If you're getting signed before the season, you're not saying we'll see what happens at the end of the season. You already have your contract. That's what Dak Prescott said. And then Dak also said, "Hey, I ain't worried about playing for here or anybody else. I don't have a fear of that. That's not a fear that I have." And Calvin Watkins asked, well, do you think you're going to be here? Well, we'll see when we get to talking or when we get to serious talks. Okay, so they ain't even talk, number one, and they ain't even serious talks. And don't tell me that the owner and Stephen Jones and Jerry and Stephen does not have the best relationship with that agent over there. And that's why Dak doesn't trust him, in my opinion. Or why did you put all those certain things in that contract? No trade, can't franchise me. That's a lack of trust. That's a lack of trust. If you put that in that contract, that's a lack of trust. And then when I see the team as this, and I heard Mike Fisher say, well, they looked at DeMarcus Lawrence contract, Zach Martin, and Dak, and this could be the last hurrah. Then when I look at who they drafted this year, guess who's the backup to DeMarcus Lawrence, and who was their 2nd-round pick? Marshawn. Okay, next year, Zach Martin. You don't have that much longer here. Who? Cooper Beebe might play center this year, but that could be your right guard next year. And then Dak Prescott, Trey Lance is sitting over there, and I'm not saying Trey Lance is anything, but you're not going to tell me that they're not going to try to show him off in minicamp, OTAs, and preseason to get a look at him. And if he shows anything, Dan, and he looks any kind of good, I'm not going to be hearing that, oh, we're just going to just use him for trade bait. No, that's going to be the hedge because I've been hearing that they're not all in on Dak. There is wavering in that building about him. And I also believe because he was a fourth round pick, you don't get the chances like everybody else, like a first rounder. He may get, because if you're on the cusp, they give you a little bit more leeway as a first rounder, fourth rounder. And these last three playoffs, Dan, Dak had a hand in that. Not blaming him for the whole thing, not at all. But he had a hand in each one of those three playoff losses. So you can't tell me that there's not no doubt about Dak Prescott in that building with everybody else because you had three playoff ready teams that should have at least contended to an NFC championship and had the ability to be in the Super Bowl all 3 years, especially that 22 and 2023 year, 2022 especially, because you went into Tampa Bay and beat them, and you should have beat them daggone Niners in San Francisco. We all feel that way. And there's no way in heck Green Bay should have came in there and beat Dallas the way they did. I definitely tell that defense was bad, but Dak didn't play the best in that first half. And I can't believe that the ownership looks up there and says, oh, we got full confidence up in Dak. We just know. Because I heard Stephen Jones also say when they were at the Senior Bowl and draft, look at our playoff record. We look at our regular season. We love that, but we got to get better in the playoffs, and we got to get guys in here to get us over the hump. So it remains to be seen, Dan, and we're going to end on this, but it remains to be seen, and I feel you, but that's just what I feel and what I've seen from this organization and the Joneses.
Yeah, I mean, you make good points, and I mean, the Trey Lance thing, it certainly makes you think, and I like to keep an open mind about things. And I mean, there are reasons to where you can try to get doubt into your mind, but I can come back with a lot of reasons why I feel just strongly that they're not thinking that. And you've been a fan as long as I have too, and you know that Jerry Jones and that he does not want to go through that misery of not having a quarterback again. I can't imagine that him at his 80 plus years were that he would just take a chance on Trey Lance. And if they were, I think that we would have saw a little more of him last year, like at least make him active to not just emergency QB if that was the case, because there's too much mystery going on there. So to me, that's a big risk. You're right. We don't know. We don't have a crystal ball. I certainly feel strongly about how things are going to play out, but I could be wrong. We'll definitely have an answer to this. One of us is going to be right on this, and then we're going to see. And if you're right, James, then I am just throwing this optimism at people, and I will have made a mistake, but I feel pretty good about it's going to go down exactly like I said, but we'll see.
Yeah, and hey, I tell people I could be totally wrong. It's just what I feel in my spirit, and I could be totally wrong. And if I'm wrong, that's just what it is. I don't have no problem saying, yeah, I was wrong. But I also just don't feel like Dak's going to win a championship here. I feel like that ship has sailed, in my opinion. I feel like 8 years was enough. I feel like once if you're not a high draft pick, and I know Dak has made himself a better player. But with these squads that you have had with the offensive and the defensive players that you've had on both sides of the ball, Mike McCarthy, he's had a hand in it. It's not just been Dak. The team has failed. The coaching has failed. I just feel like after a point in time, then it's just kind of move on. And I'm not comparing Dak to Kirk Cousins, but it's just like when I see Kirk Cousins, it's like you had your time, dog. And Kirk Cousins, you were a good player and you get numbers. Now it's like you're going to Atlanta because you had your time. And yeah, you blew out your Achilles, but how much longer do you need to see after a certain player? And this is just what I feel about Dak. Dak is a very good player, but I just don't feel another 4 years is going to bring a championship here. I definitely would love to see if he could do it somewhere else, because this seems like when Cowboys players get away from underneath that, whatever it is here, they go prosper somewhere else. And I ain't going to lie.
Who? Nobody. Nobody's that. Who?
Who doesn't prosper and go there? Did Randy Gregory just go over there in San Francisco and play in the Super Bowl?
Uh, I don't remember seeing much of him. I think he was on a
He
playoff team,
played.
but
He was on the playoff roster. He got on that team and he went there. Did Damian Wilson, who's with us now, wasn't he on the Super Bowl roster? Was
he
Anthony
was, yes,
Hitchison on the Super Bowl roster?
absolutely. Yep, you're right. I didn't
And
know. I didn't realize that's what you were going with Prosper. Yeah, they
I
go.
was saying they didn't the cornerback as well from San Francisco
Yeah,
who we had, and then he went
Travaris
to
Ward.
Kansas City.
Yeah,
Travarius Ward.
he actually contributed, so I'll give you that one. These other guys, I mean, I don't. Dranny Gregory hasn't done anything.
I know, but what I'm saying is he got on a team and they got to the chip. He hey, I can definitely agree with you with Randy Gray. I'm just saying he went to a team, they went to a chip. Now I understand where you're coming from, but was he contributing all like that? I feel you with that, so I ain't gonna really lean on him on that one because that's not a really a good argument. But I will definitely say that if I'm looking at the way the Cowboys do it, I understand they don't go hard in free agency, but I feel like last year was they all in the year. Last year is when you saw them get the defensive tackle in the first round. You saw them get busy as far as making some trades and getting the Gilmore and getting the Brandon Cooks. You saw them, get rid of Kellen Moore. That kind of Mike McCarthy was like, I want to do my thing. Okay, well, I felt like they made a lot of concessions last year and it fell flat in their face. And now I feel like they're like, kind of going to go back to the way we was kind of doing it, and y'all just going to see it this way. And that's why I feel like that's the way it's happening. Because if you look at how they did in free agency, they always usually get guys even before now. They usually tamper with it, especially in Mike McCarthy era. They got the Don Terry Pose and the
Gerald
uh,
McCoy,
Gerald
Clinton
McCoy.
Dix.
They were getting those guys. I know they didn't work, but they were making attempts. We didn't see those attempts like that with the Garrett regime like that. They were at
That's
least
fair.
getting more named players with
Right.
McCarthy. So that tells me that they were trying to do it a little bit, amp it up a little bit more with the
Right.
different coach. You feel what I'm saying? But
I do.
this year, I didn't see that. And so that's why I'm peculiar. I think it could be a blow up. We'll see. I'm not saying they're throwing the season away, but they're saying, okay, we're just going to do what we do and make it work. And if it doesn't work and they don't sign Dak, I feel like he's going to be the fall guy in this because they didn't really upgrade the roster to that level. And now it'll be put on him again. And everybody's going to blame him. And I'm just kind of getting tired of that. And I feel like Dak needs to go somewhere else where he doesn't have to deal with that anymore.
We want to keep Dak around. We like him.
Hey, we'll see. We'll see. But hey, I appreciate you jumping on here. A real good talk, man. I'm glad we got to talk about some things, and we definitely need to revisit this, especially if Dak Prescott signs or if he doesn't sign. We definitely need to revisit this if we can, and then talk about the signing or not signing, or see what's going to be happening on the horizon, particularly before the season, because the June 1st cuts, they'll probably be in a different roster because they probably are going to pick up some people. And then, like you said, they got extra picks. Maybe they try to get busy and throw a late rounder to pick up somebody. So I definitely like to revisit this closer to the season and then see what this roster is looking like and kind of go from there if you would like to do that.
Absolutely, for sure, James. I love arguing with you. I think it's very healthy to just keep challenging each other, and we have these respectful disagreements and stuff, and that's how we learn. And so,
Hmm.
absolutely, anytime you know how to reach me, and I'm always willing to talk Cowboys with you.
I definitely appreciate it, bro. Well, hey, for myself, Mr. Dan Rogers of Blogging the Boys, Big Game James, great back and forth today. Check this out. Give it a thumbs up. Give it a good like, and make sure you check out Dan Rogers. Go ahead and let them know where they can follow you as well. I don't want to be disrespectful. Let them know about you and what you do behind the scenes as far as the Twitter, so they can probably possibly give you a follow as well.
Yeah, you can read my stuff over at Blogging the Boys, and if you are up to it, you can listen to what I have to say on Twitter. I'm at Danny Phantom
Mhm.
24. I'll just warn you right now, you're not going to like everything, but hey, that's fine. But just if you do need to have your spirits lifted free during the free agency time, I am a good follow in that regard. So definitely, I'm willing to engage with people. So come check it out.
All right, man. Hey, I appreciate you once again. You have a wonderful night, and we'll definitely be doing this again soon. And I'll be definitely checking out your tweets, Mr. Dan Rogers.
Thanks, James.
Take care, man.